Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is John Zeitlin. I'm the director of the Hallowell Tadaro Center here in Palo Alto, California. And I just want to reflect a little bit about how we got here before we start our presentation. And so here in Santa Clara County, we were the first county in the country, or a handful of counties up in this area, that went shelter in place. And thanks to the, some foresight from some of the leaders around here. And this is now, I think, well, it's weeks ago now. And that first week was kind of a shock. It was kind of shock and awe to all of us. The kids are home from school and, work was upside down, and, we closed the office immediately. And we had, since we opened the office, our phones had been ringing and emails had been coming in. And then it was just quiet that first week. And then about, I would say probably 10 days in after we went shelter in place, all of a sudden the emails started coming back in. And it was all manner of different things that were cropping up because of the pandemic and because of shelter in place. We had, I just, in a short span, I think about different situations. So we had quite a few parents who called who had younger kids where they went to schools that were progressive that had almost no homework. And then all of a sudden, all of school was homework, where, there was some Zoom meetings, maybe once, an hour a day, and the rest of it was homework. And that's hard for all kids, but with kids with ADHD, that's particularly challenging. We had parents whose kids had behavioral issues that got, amped up in anxiety because, there's a lot to be anxious about if you're looking at TV or reading the newspaper, and that was causing some issues at home. We had a lot of teenagers who were kind of in this, developmental stage of breaking away, and here they were back at home, every day with their families. Maybe they were online with their friends, but they're at home every single day, not getting to hang out with their families. And that caused a lot of emotions. And then, of course, we had a lot of parents who just were like, reaching out for help because it's kind of intense. If you're lucky to have your job still, you're going to be so worried about your finances, worried about your family, worried about safety. You're trying to work at home. Maybe you've got multiple kids working at home. Trying to do schoolwork at home, and all of a sudden you're being put in the place of being a teacher. And so, these are not what I'm talking about. Everybody knows this has been going on, but what we're hearing is through the lens and the filter of ADHD. And so we, I guess to sum up, I could hear the pain increasing, somewhat. And so we just thought this would be a great time for Dr. Hallowell to come back and address a large audience. And I can see 283 people, so that's really wonderful, folks showing up to hear him. And those of you who have read Dr. Hallowell's books and have seen him speak either live, or on video, know that he's a really positive guy. I mean, they talk about strengths-based, but he's just looking for the positive in people, in positive situations. And if you've read his memoir, he had a very hard personal life of childhood, and he came through it. And is, a great dad and a husband and a friend and colleague. And so one thing I can guarantee you is that about, after an hour with Ned, you'll be feeling a little bit better about the world than when you came in today. So, so I'm just going to share a couple slides, if you don't mind. So let's see here. So the first thing I just want to talk about the format. You probably figured this out by now, but if you haven't used Zoom before, you're not gonna be able to go on video, and we can't hear you. But Dr. Hallowell has requested to make the session interactive. And so if you see those green arrows, that first green arrow is where you would turn on your chat function if you haven't figured it out. And then you'll see on the right side where you can actually chat. A couple of our colleagues, Megan and Cindy, and maybe myself later, will be kind of monitoring the chat and answering questions. And then as Dr. Hallowell works his way through his presentation, he'll stop and take some and address some of the questions that are coming through the chat. So we have a wonderful partner in this presentation, Children's Health Council. Those of you who are local to the Bay Area probably know Children's Health Council. They've been really one of the leaders, if not the leader, in children's mental health in this area for 70 years. They've been a great partner to us at Hallowell Tadaro since we opened. And I just want to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Vivian Kyle, who's just going to talk a little bit about CHC's organization, and then I'll just get back on for a little bit. So Vivian, it's on to you.
Great, thank you so.
Just tell me when you want me to advance slides, and I'll do it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it so much, John and Dr. Hallowell, for partnering with CHC for this particular very relevant topic. A little bit about us, just like you said, we are very much a community-based organization that has been in the Bay Area, Palo Alto specifically, for over 70 years. And we hope and plan on being around for at least another 70 and preferably more. One of the things that we always try to do is pivot to the needs of our local community. And in some ways now our local community is very much going through the same thing as our national and international community, which is that we needed to pivot our services very, very quickly within days once that shelter in place directive came down about a month ago. And so I'm happy to say that that very same week, CHC, not only our services remained open, our office closed, but our services immediately transitioned to the virtual world. And so our clinical services and both of our schools exist virtually, which is pretty remarkable. And one of the things that we really want our community to know is that not only are we offering our typical clinical services and educational services, we also offer free 30-minute parent consultations with one of our mental health experts. And so the reason why I think that is so important in these times is because we are all collectively experiencing the same increase in stress and anxiety. And if you are watching the news right now, which is a little bit counterproductive at times, right? There's a lot of chatter around the collective trauma that we're all experiencing. And I think that we're going to see increases in kind of mental health concerns as these weeks become months and kind of continue to drag on. So please do know that you can go to our website and request a free parent consult, and you do not have to be local. So keep that in mind, folks who are kind of coming from out of state or things like that. You do not have to be local in order to be able to get one of these free consults with one of our mental health experts. Next slide, please. So this gives us our website right here. So if you go to CHC online, you'll find a way to get connected with our care team to either get connected with services or those free consults that I just mentioned. And then you can also find out about webinars like this one that we hold for parents free of charge, in addition to support groups that are being run through CHC for families in these kind of unprecedented times. Next slide. And then you can actually move on to the next one. I covered this one too. So the ways in which we try to support our community are through our kind of 4 core expertise areas, which are ADHD, very relevant to this evening, autism, learning differences, and anxiety and depression. And these are just some of the services that we provide at Children's Health Council. And I think that's the last slide. So just know that as both a local organization and one that now can support, especially around parent support groups, webinars, please know that we are a resource for you all. And go to our website and you'll find all sorts of, like our resource library has some of the other webinars that have already been held. We've got 2 more scheduled next week. And just access our services and check in so that we can kind of reduce the isolation and take good care of each other. So thank you, John. Thank you, Dr. Hallowell, for your time. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. I'm just going to talk briefly about our center in Palo Alto. So we designed the center to be very focused on ADHD, but to supply all the services that you would need for ADHD. So whether it's assessment and diagnosis or therapy or coaching, parent coaching and support groups and medication. So we have this kind of wraparound model that we've worked, really built very successfully in other offices and now brought to the Palo Alto area. And, it's been really, just listening to Vivian, we've had very parallel experiences. Like we heard on, I think it was Friday, that we were going to go shelter in place. And by Monday, we had converted our entire practice to online. So very similarly. And our therapy team and coaching team were very adept. But you had to learn pretty quickly what worked and what didn't work. And if I could just tell one quick story. So one of our therapists, Sam, was telling me the story of he was working with an 8-year-old. And the younger kids have been the hardest to work with online. young kids with ADHD. And he told me about this activity he designed where he took 6 pieces of poster board and hid them around his apartment. And he picked up his laptop, walked around the apartment with the camera on, and said to the child, when you see a colored piece of poster board, shout out. And so he walked around, the kid said, there's orange. And Sam picked up the poster board and he held it up to the camera and it said frustration on there. And that was the beginning conversation with the child about if he's experiencing frustration and how he deals with those issues. So, we miss face-to-face. We want our center to open up, but going online has created some innovation. And the other thing it's done is it's broken down some geographic barriers. So we focus on California because, that's where our staff is licensed to practice. But we now have clients in very far Northern California and the Central Valley and Southern California. And that's been kind of another upside of this, going online. So it's been interesting learning experience, but I feel actually quite fortunate that therapy is one of those things you can do quite effectively online. This is our team. We have, we're a small but growing organization, very experienced therapists, typically about 10 to 15 years of experience, and some are MFTs and some are LCSWs. Some specialize in younger kids or young adults or older adults. We have our medical staff of Dr. Goldstein and then Jordy Goldstein-Fuchs, who's a nurse practitioner. And then we have 2 parent coaches who have, I think they've probably seen as many, work with as many parents as most people in the country at this point, because they work with our Seattle practice, which is a huge practice, and they're very experienced and wonderful. So this is the team. And when we went shelter in place, and I said the calls were increasing, we're hearing the pain, we started talking amongst the staff to say, like, well, what can we design specifically for this issue? And so we kind of chewed that around for a few weeks, and now we're ready to do this. So this is a program that's specifically for this situation, and we start off with a family assessment, and that can be done one-on-one, or it can be done with the whole family, depending on the dynamics. But in any case, it gives everybody in the family a voice to speak up and talk about how things have been going, in the household with shelter in place. And then we break out to individual and group services, and we've designed some things that are lower cost or free. Just like Vivian was talking about, that's a good thing that good organizations have been doing right now with some of the financial stress. But we do a lot of the services we've been doing. We've just been focusing on things like executive function, which is so hard for kids, while they have this new school paradigm, or parent support groups, these kind of shorter courses to help them get through this. So people kind of work their individual, and then we check back in with the family to make sure things are improving. And it's this kind of iterative approach, I think, that will support families. So we're really excited about this being something that can help people through this time. And it's a great team. And I just want to mention that this team was all trained by Dr. Hallowell and Leslie Todaro, our other co-founder, and in the approaches that Dr. Hallowell has brought to the table over many, many years. And so we were really working in with his support, I guess is the best way to put it. That's our contact info. That's the local office. I'm just going to pause on that for 1 second. And you can get us on our website, of course, too. And then there's Hallowell offices around the country. So I'm just leaving out these numbers for a minute. Dr. Hallowell lives in Boston area, but he's in New York City a lot. And then we have centers in San Francisco, Seattle, and Kirkland. Okay, and now I'm going to just introduce my friend and colleague, Dr. Edward Hallowell. So Dr. Hallowell is a board-certified child and adult psychiatrist. And he's probably best known as being an author. He's an incredible writer. And again, if you read his memoir, you'll find out how he became a writer, which is a great story. And he's always working on a book. He's most famous for Driven to Distraction, but he's written on a wide variety of topics. And I know he's got a new one coming out soon. He speaks all over the world. And I will say, he overcame dyslexia and ADHD to become a graduate of Harvard and Tulane Medical School. And he was at Harvard Medical School faculty for 21 years. And I know you're missing the Red Sox as part of this. That's one thing we have in common. And so with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hallowell.
Well, gosh, thank you so much, John, and it's a real pleasure to be with you all. You'll see me taking on and off my glasses. I'm sitting in my dining room in Arlington, Massachusetts, which is a town just west of Boston. And you'll see behind me one of my favorite paintings. It's of our three children when they were a lot younger. They're now 30, 27, and 24. And John mentioned, I have achieved my life's fondest goal, which is to give my kids the happy childhood. I shouldn't say my wife and I, Sue and I gave our kids the happy childhood that I didn't have, which is just a wonderful thing to be able to say. Well, so here we are, and in this strange time, what I thought I'd do with you is talk a little bit about the pandemic and you're all staying at home, and then talk a little bit about ADD, and then share a piece I wrote recently on the theme of what happens if you feel desperate. But I want to start off by giving you some tips on this quarantine procedure. And I want to start by saying, don't keep social distance, keep physical distance, but keep social closeness. And that's why I'm doing this webinar with you all tonight. And that's why you all turned out to join in. We need to promote closeness amongst us. It's so important now more than ever. So I don't like the term social distance. I think we ought to call it physical distance. Yes, we do have to keep distant from one another, but not socially. So we can do a webinar. I'm sitting here in Boston, you're sitting out there in California, most of you, some of you in other parts of the world. And that's a great thing. You know, we exchange positive energy with one another in ways we're not even aware of. And I can tell you during this hour, the positive energy will get going amongst us in ways that we're not even aware of. So my first tip on living in quarantine or shelter in place or whatever the term is to promote social connection in whatever way you can, while of course observing physical distance and wearing your protective gear when you go out and all the rest. My second tip, and just those of you who like structure and order, I'm going to give you 10 tips. So the number 2 is do the best you can. Don't hold yourself, by the way, if you hear a cough in the next room, that's my wife, and she doesn't have corona, she just coughs. But in any case, do the best you can. I think we're all thinking that we have to be unbelievably adept at obeying the protocol and really good at washing our hands, for 20 seconds, and really good with flipping out the mask and getting it right on, and really good at not getting too close to anyone. Do your best. This is all new. And let me just ask you, do you know anyone who doesn't touch their face? I know a couple where they have a game where every time one of them touches their face, they have to give the other $1. Well, to get me not to do it, it would have to be $100. I mean, I don't know how to inhibit my natural reflex to touch my face. I never knew. In fact, I've become quite self-conscious about it, how often I did touch my face. I mean, do I have some unconscious desire to caress myself or something? I'm sure the psychoanalysts would have a field day with it. But in any case, if you find yourself touching your face, don't beat yourself up and don't say, oh, I've failed shelter in place and I've failed quarantine. I'm a bad citizen and I'm spreading the virus like typhoid Mary. No, you do the best you can. Go easy on yourself. This is a new skill for us all. We're doing the best we can, and it looks like we're doing pretty darn well. The results are starting to come in, and we're getting better at it. It's hard, but just try to do the best you can. The third tip: be happy for your friends who have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Their day has come. They're happy as pigs in poop. Suddenly, all the things that used to drive them crazy and you crazy about them, they're assets. They polish, they scrub, they clean, they fuss over, they parse out every last little thing. They are in their element. Their day has come, so be happy for them. Instead of them annoying you now, invite them over. Say, have at it. Take on my whole house. Scour it down. You know, scrub all you want. Wash my hands while you're at it. Here, take my hands, wash them. You know, it's really an OCD dream in many ways. It's okay to binge watch television. That's another little thing. You know, you don't have to spend your whole day watching shows about the pandemic. You really don't. And it's, I would submit, bad for you to do so. There's one particular show that my wife and I have watched a lot during this. It's called Frank and Gracie, or Gracie and Frank. I can't be, Grace and Frankie. It's hysterical. It's with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. And they were both married to two men who fell in love with each other and decided they were gay, and they found the love of their life in each other. And Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, Grace and Frankie, who had been sort of rivals, suddenly were thrown together, and the comedy ensues, and they do a great job. So if you want a very funny, obviously it's for, it doesn't have to be for older people, but you know, it's Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin are not exactly young either. So very funny, Grace and Frankie. It's hysterical. Number 6, you do not have to keep your kids entertained as if you were the attendant at the spa. It is not your job every day to come up with some new roster of activities and offer it to them as if they were, you know, your valued customers who are paying you. No, you're the parents, you know, veg out. Let them take out the trash, do the dishes. Let them make the beds. Let them learn better about chores and whatnot. Your job is not to entertain them. Sure, you want to enrich their day, all the things good parents do, and you're good parents or you wouldn't have come to the webinar. You're looking for anything you can do, but give yourself a break too, and put your kids to work. It's good for kids. It's really good for kids not to have someone do too much for them. Probably the biggest mistake I made as a parent was doing too much for my kids and not letting them learn to do for themselves. Now they've turned out fine. They're all working. They have great jobs. They've dealt with all kind of stuff. So it's not like it had terrible consequences, but I think I did in many ways do too much for them because I was trying to be such a good dad. So during this crisis, this pandemic, don't measure yourself by how much you do for your children. Work together as a unit, and then take advantage of the time to learn to work together as a unit. You're probably never going to spend so much time together as a unit ever again. In fact, we probably hope not. But so take this unique opportunity to learn how to work together as a unit, and don't be surprised if there's conflict. Learning how to work together as a unit engenders conflict. You want that, this one wants that, this other one wants that. Next thing you know, if you've got more than a few people, you're all at each other. And then the dog jumps in. The dog is probably the peacemaker, but don't think that you have to do all the entertaining. Number 7, structure. Now you've heard that word structure. Everyone needs structure. And when things are chaotic, you need structure all the more. What is structure? Simple way to think of it, structure is what differentiates noise from music. Noise from music. Chaos from order. Helter-skelter from beauty. So try these days, when you are sort of always on the brink of chaos, to make music. Easier said than done, of course, but try to create order where you can in every day. Believe me, it's what everyone needs. So learn the great art of creating structure, which I call making music. Now, if you can't make music, if it's just too much and you're stressed out, then be glad you can make noise. Be glad you have it in you to protest, to make noise, to argue. It's fine to argue. Don't think you're breaking some law of the universe if you argue. Conflict is natural. The opposite of connection is not conflict. The opposite of connection is indifference. So as long as you all care enough to argue with each other and get into spats and whatever, be glad that you can make noise. If you happen to be able also to go the next step and make music and add structure, good for you. But don't feel bad if you can't. This is a time to cut yourself and everyone else some slack. Don't expect to be, you know, the good housekeeping mother of the year or father of the year or child of the year for that matter. Cut yourself some slack, get to know each other's moves in downtime, and it's probably going to be messy. It's just in the nature of being human. We are not robotic. We are not programmed. We are not naturally obedient and serving one another's will. I actually know, have some patients who live in a monastery, and you think, oh, harmony reigns. No, it doesn't. The brothers have conflicts with each other just like anyone else. They're human. So accept being human, and humans under stress tend to have conflict. If you have kids, this is number 9, set up projects. Now, not like an attendant at the spa, but as you're falling asleep at night, dream up some projects that you might propose to them because they have this downtime. It's a great time to envision the house you might like to live in someday and draw a picture of it or make a model of it. Or dream up a business that you could start, that your 10-year-old could start when the pandemic is over. I have a friend who is a self-made billionaire, and his business he started when he was 10 years old, a lawn care business. He still has the yellow lined paper that he used as a menu for his business on his wall in New York. You know, rake leaves, cut grass, stack wood, whatever. That business that he started out in New Mexico at the age of 10, he said, that's exactly what I've been doing ever since. So it's a great time to get a kid, particularly with ADD, because ADD kids are born entrepreneurs. They are natural entrepreneurs. So have them design a business, a lawn care business, if you're in the north, snow shoveling business, or a paper delivery, you know, the old Kool-Aid stand. Another fun thing you might do is interview your grandparents. However many grandparents you have alive, interview them. It's a great project, and write it down. And you know, next thing you know, you'll be saving those interviews for the rest of your life. And another one that I thought of is find out who your congressperson is, and write to him or her. Each of you in the family, each of you write a letter to your congressperson and giving your suggestions, maybe offering some praise, maybe offering some complaints. But it's a good way to begin to develop and flex your political muscles and your political interest, and see what happens. See if you get a note back. And then finally, at family dinner or whenever you get together to share, appreciate one another. You know, hug one another. Say you love one another. You know, it doesn't have to be hokey. But share visions for the future and say, you know, where will we be, you know, 8 months from now, and where will we be 25 years from now, and build castles in the air. You know, it's a great time to dream together. You have each other's captured attention, and so use it to share what I call the vision of greatness. Stoke the vision of greatness. Stoke in your kids and in yourself. Where would I really like to be? Where do I want to come out of this? What can I do during this interregnum that will make the entry into something better? And try to prepare yourselves and your children for that. Stoke, feed that vision of greatness. Well, those are my 10 tips on how to manage the quarantine most successfully. And I'm sure you could add 10 more right off the top of your head. Now we will go into the world of ADD. Before I do that, I want to ask Megan if there are any questions that have come up so far.
Yeah, there have been a lot of questions and comments. Let me make sure I'm on here. And what I wanted to let you know, Dr. Hallowell, we've got people from all over Michigan. We got Lisa from Saskatchewan, Debbie, Vancouver, you know, Oklahoma, Palo Alto, Maryland, I mean, all over Virginia, New Zealand. So this is really cool. One of the things that keeps coming up questions is this. Let's see, Heather, I just saw yours, and it says in Pacific, that she lives in Pacifica in California. and with ADHD for herself, her 13-year-old daughter who has ADHD and anxiety and learning disabilities, and also another kiddo, a 10-year-old with global delays, and that she's having a hard time keeping up with the distance learning. And this seems to be sort of a comment, what I've noticed of people putting in here, maybe you can speak to that for them, is the keeping up with distance learning and all of the things that are being thrown out at these parents and kids. And when they have ADHD or learning differences, it's hard to keep up with all of that. So that's been the biggest comment so far.
You're going to be shocked. I don't know, maybe not shocked, but surprised, maybe disappointed at my answer. But my answer is forget about it. Fall behind. Don't get it done. Who in the world is not going to forgive you? Whether you have ADD or not, whether you have a learning challenge or not, distance learning is a whole new skill for these kids and parents. And for you guys to be stressing out, and I have parents talking to me all the time about this, stressing out, agonizing, breaking knuckles over trying to figure out, first of all, what the assignment is and how to get it in and how to hand it in virtually, remotely, upside downly. Forget about it, please. I mean, do the best you can, of course. I'm not saying blow it off, but don't think of it as the make or break measure of your day. It's just not. And these schools have got to understand that. These persnickety teachers who are used to being, dotting your I and fining you if you're a second late with your paper, they've got to get over it, because they're just not, that's not what the world needs now. The world needs flexibility, a sense of humor, understanding, and I can guarantee you no one is going to hold it against you if you don't get your homework in on time during this period. And if they do hold it against you, that's their problem. That's their problem. It's just not worth stressing your entire family out trying to figure out all these new rules of distance learning procedures, how to operate apps and platforms that we barely even understand, and expect our kids to be able to do it. Say to them, son, daughter, do your best. I'll help you the best I can. But if you're having trouble with it, don't obsess and beat yourself up and think, oh my God, I'm never going to have a future in life. It's just not true. This is an extraordinary time. You do your best, make the best of it, but don't hold yourself to a standard that is simply unrealistic and really very, very punishing. Okay, let me move from that question into the world of ADHD, where I've lived all of my 70 years. I just turned 70, I can't believe it. I don't look it, right? You're all supposed to be typing in, tell him he doesn't look it, but I am, I'm 70 years old. And I've had 70 years of living with ADD. And I didn't find out about it until 1981. So how old was I then? You can do the math. It's a wonderful condition if you manage it right. That's the most important message to give you. It's a superpower if you manage it right. It absolutely, I have so many patients who are mega successful. Most entrepreneurs have it. Most highly creative people have it. Inventive, creative, think outside the box, entrepreneurial, spunky, the kind of people who colonized this country. And then the waves of immigration who came over. That's ADD. It's the people who have the new idea, who invent the wheel, who, David Neilman, who founded JetBlue, has big time ADD, and he's the guy that thought of putting TVs in the back of the seats. Isn't it great? Someone with ADD doesn't want to be bored. And he's also the guy who invented the electronic ticket. And isn't it wonderful? Someone who thinks of a way for us to go to the airport and not have to remember to bring our ticket has ADD. So it can become your superpower, as indeed David Neilman says it is for him, and many of the people I treat say it is for them. The way to make it your superpower is to learn about it. It's really important, because if you don't, it can be your super curse. Believe me, not handled properly, this condition can absolutely incapacitate you. As Russell Barkley has shown, it cuts an average of 15 years off a person's life due to all the problems we get into, the higher rate of suicide, of depression, of addiction, of unemployment, you name it, bad care of self and health. If you don't know what's going on and you don't know how to manage it, then far from being a superpower, it's a super curse, which means take it seriously. Learn about it, because if you do learn about it, then the sky's the limit. You can win the lottery, the life lottery. you can achieve your fondest dreams. And that's often where I meet people, particularly adults. They've stalled out and they don't know how to get to the next step. And this diagnosis is one golden key that absolutely can take you to the next step. What is it? It's the way I describe it to kids. It's like you've got a Ferrari engine for a brain. You've got a race car for a brain. You've got this powerful, powerful, powerful brain, but you have bicycle brakes. A race car brain with bicycle brakes. That's what the condition is in a nutshell. And I'm a brake specialist. And at the center in Palo Alto, they're brake specialists. They will show you how to gain control over the special power that you've got so you can turn it into something wonderfully constructive instead of crashing out and spinning out on curves as a Ferrari would do that had no brakes. Is that clear? It really is the essence of what it's all about. How do you get there? Education, education, education. Learn what it is and what it isn't. This is not just a syndrome of little boys who bounce off the walls. In fact, that's not particularly common. But it is a syndrome of complexity, depth, richness, and really enchantment when you learn how to manage it right. Active imagination, active sense of curiosity. They're driven by curiosity. The ADD mind goes wherever curiosity leads it with no regard for danger or authority. The ADD mind is like a toddler on a picnic, off into the lake, off into the woods, stick your head in a snake's nest, whatever. Curiosity drives you, and then next thing you know, you notice a petri dish that looks funny, and you discover penicillin. So this constant sense of curiosity, and even if you think about it, that's what distraction is. We are distractible because we're so curious. We want to know what was that, what was that, what was that, you know, and impulsivity. You know, that's one of the negative symptoms. Well, what is creativity but impulsivity gone right? You don't plan to have a creative thought. They pop impulsively, you know, weak brakes. If you're not a little bit impulsive, spontaneous, disinhibited, you're not going to be creative. So learn about it. That's what I mean by learning what it is and what it isn't. Take the dark cloud off of it to get past stigma and get to a place where you're full of joy. I mean, my goal before I die, I want people to wish they had this condition, which, by the way, should not be called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That is a complete misnomer. It is not a deficit of attention. It's an abundance of attention. Our challenge is to control it. And I don't see it as a disorder at all. I see it as a trait. It can make your life or break your life. It's all a matter of how you manage it. So I've renamed it VAST, Variable Attention Stimulus Trait. And it is indeed vast. So learn about its vastness, and then you'll know how to make it your own, control it, and turn it into your superpower. You'll become an X-Man or an X-Woman. As I like to say, number 5, giving you 10 again, unwrap the gift. Unwrap the gift. I don't treat disabilities. I help people unwrap their gift. And that's not just a semantic difference. It's a whole difference in emphasis. I'm saying, look, you're coming to me, raw material. You've got tremendous strengths. We just need to tap into them, find them, develop them, unwrap them. Not a matter of treating a disability. It's a matter of developing talents and strengths in whatever particular area you happen to have them. Let's pause for a second, Megan, and see, is there another question?
Yes, I just ran across this one as I'm going down from Alejandro. And he says, since I was diagnosed, I can't, hold on, let me get there. He's had to keep it to himself. He strongly believes that he is misunderstood. People either think I have a scary mental illness or that I'm ignoring them when they are talking. Does anyone else feel that way? And I figured you'd probably have something good to say about that.
Oh, absolutely. It's very common in ADD that people feel misunderstood. In fact, when people come to see me, they often start crying and say, for the first time, someone understands me. It's very common for people of all ages, but particularly as they get a little bit older, to feel that they don't fit in, that they're not understood, that they're different. And then they try to put on this act trying to be normal. Oh, that's not a good idea. You want to be yourself. And there's nothing more awkward than seeing someone trying to be someone that they're just not. So find people who can understand you and really understand yourself. And then you can present yourself And the world can take you or leave you, and that's really what it has to be. The world can take you or leave you, and if you develop a sense of liking who you are, then the rest will pretty much take care of itself. I don't particularly love the term love yourself, because I think it's overdone in mental health. I know a lot of people who love themselves who shouldn't, but I do like the term like yourself. Can you like yourself and accept yourself as you are? And that's a very legitimate goal, and one that I think people can reasonably achieve. So number 6, I say unwrap the gift. So how do you unwrap the gift? And I've already mentioned the main tool, which is education. But then we have medication, which when used properly can be a godsend. It's effective about 80% of the time. 20% of the time it's not. And again, used properly, it's safe and effective, and it's been around for 80 years. Very few medication categories have been around that long. Then we have coaching, which is sort of lifestyle revision, learning how to get organized, learning new habits, learning new tricks, learning new strategies. Big things like for adults, marry the right person, find the right job. Then smaller things, find the right organizational scheme, find the right notepad. What kind of writing implement do you want to use? All of that matters. It's all part of coaching and creating the ideal environment for yourself. And lifestyle changes, of course, exercise, sleep, diet, nutrition, and my favorite one, positive human contact, vitamin connect. I call it the other vitamin C. It's really good for you. We need to connect now more than ever, as I said at the beginning. Physical distance, social connection, what we're doing right now. I hope you feel me as I talk to you. I hope you feel through the airwaves that I care, that I want you to understand this, that I want to give you this gift. And I hope that creates a connection between us, because it's really the most powerful force in the world. The next one is a new kind of treatment that I'm very excited about. It involves doing specific physical exercises that stimulate the cerebellum. The cerebellum is a part of your brain at the base and the back. And it turns out it's much more important, and this is new discoveries from Harvard Medical School and Jeremy Schmahmann, that shows the cerebellum is much more than balance. It used to be thought that it was just balance. No, it's intimately involved in cognition, thinking, regulating emotion, and developing the ability to do something fast. I compare it to what a great quarterback has to do. Drop back and in 2.8 seconds, read the field and make a decision. That's cerebellar mediated. So you want to do exercises that bulk up your cerebellum, and you can do that because of all parts of the brain, cerebellum is maybe the most plastic. That means the most changeable, the most able to be exercised and grow in bulk. So if you do the exercises, you will bulk up your cerebellum. You will increase the cerebellum's gray matter. And in doing that, it's a wonderful non-medication treatment for ADHD. Needs more research yet to prove it for sure. But if you want to learn more, go to distraction.zingperformance.com. That's distraction, the word distraction, then .zing, Z-I-N-G, performance.com. Distraction.zingperformance.com. I think it's the biggest breakthrough in my career, and I've been doing this 40 years, in terms of a non-medication treatment that gets at underlying causes rather than symptomatic. Medication is symptomatic. It's very good, like eyeglasses, very good, but it's only symptomatic. It's not getting at the underlying, whereas the cerebellar stimulation, these exercises that, by the way, you only have to do for 10 minutes twice a day, 10 minutes twice a day for 3 to 6 months, that is rewiring your brain, i.e. by bulking up your cerebellum. Number 8, this is another one of my mottos. Do whatever works as long as it's safe and it's legal. Whatever works. So, and it's common that I have patients, clients who intuitively know this will work or that will work. Well, I think if I got this kind of pen, or if I think if I rode a bicycle backwards, or I think if I sat with my back against the dishwasher and did my studying, as one little girl patient of mine, and something about the vibrations and allowed her to study better. So try anything. Be your own experimental animal. Whatever works, as long as it's safe and it's legal. Number 9, another one of my major mottos, never worry alone. And that's by way of saying connect, reach out, have physical distance, but social connection. Bad things happen when you worry alone. That's when things close in and you awfulize, globalize, and catastrophize. And then finally, keep building up that notion, which I ended the last category, the last set of 10 with, the same idea. Keep building up that vision of greatness. Take your ADD and turn it into something marvelous. Don't let it hold you back. Quite the opposite. Have it be the springboard to your greatest dreams, and dream big. Dream big, big, big. As my friend John Croyle runs a orphanage down in Alabama, says, be a dream maker, not a dream breaker. Help yourself and your children make their dreams, stoke their dreams, define their vision of greatness, and then work toward achieving it. Well, before I go on to part 3 here, do we have some more questions, Megan?
Yes, we've got a few really big ones, and I know you won't be able to probably address it all, but I wanted you to at least make a comment or give you the opportunity to. First of all, one individual mentioned that I liked the way that Dr. Hallowell reminded us of what's important now: life skills, sense of humor, and I love how you reiterated that, and that seemed to really spark some hope in some people and some inspiration. Here are the two big ones. Some people wrote about, what are your thoughts on kids and screen time now that this is the only way they can connect with friends? And the second one that's the big one is addiction and ADHD.
Well, screen time is the same as always. Some is great, too much is bad. I mean, I think you absolutely let them use it to be in touch with their friends, in touch with the world, in touch with what's going on. But again, you want to monitor content, and 9 hours of playing video games a day is not good. It's just not good. So monitor content and monitor quantity. But yes, allow for screens. My wife and I binge watching Grace and Frankie. I mean, we don't want to be all holier than thou as parents. We all love our screens. I love watching television. I'd be lost without it. It helps me chill out. It recharges my batteries. I'm a television junkie, so I make time for other things, and that's what you got to make sure your kids do too. Make time for the other things that matter, but don't think you have to be totally abstemious when it comes to screens. Now, addiction, that's a huge one. Addiction in our world, in the world of ADD, addiction is 10 times more common than it is for the average person, and 80% of addiction begins between the ages of 13 and 23. So keep those two facts: 10 times more likely to develop an addiction, and 80% of it gets started between 13 and 23. That means you want to take it really seriously, but don't freak out. And another factoid that most people don't know: stimulant medication like Adderall and Ritalin, far from opening the gateway to addiction, closes the gateway, not completely, but it dramatically reduces the rate of addiction. Kids who start on stimulant medication before they get to 13 and the danger zone, they have a markedly lower rate of addiction to tobacco, alcohol, cocaine, Xanax, opiates, the whole gamoosh. So if your child has ADHD, it's another reason to seriously consider medication as preventative measure for developing addiction. And I think addiction is the single most treacherous risk for people, especially growing up years. Absolutely can waylay you, absolutely ruin your life, absolutely just change the course of your life forever. So education, and then if you're inclined to use medication, I urge you to do it, because it is very safe and it really does lower the risk of addiction. And then all the preventative measures we take around addiction, and take them very seriously. Well, I will do some more questions, but I want to end with this note that I wrote to someone who had emailed me feeling very desperate. And I didn't know this person. I get a fair number of emails from people I don't know, and I try to answer them all. By the way, if you want to send me one, my email address is drhallowell@gmail.com. Just drhallowell, HALLOWELL, @gmail.com. Well, this is what I wrote in response. If you are desperate, take my hand. If you are desperate, just take my hand. For a few moments, listen. It will all work out. It has before, it will again, it will all work out. It always has, more or less. It will again. Whatever it is, it will pass. Nothing lasts as it is. Everything subsides, even pain, especially pain. Stay with me, please. Take my hand. That's what I need when I'm desperate. And I've had serious moments of desperation in my life, more than a few. We are in this life together. No one gets through clean. I don't know your reason for feeling desperate. Has someone betrayed you or threatened you? That happened to me once really badly. I forgave the person only to have that person betray me again. I know, fool me once. Have you done something that's gotten you into trouble? Who hasn't? Are you desperately worried about someone you love? That's especially hard because you have so little control. Whatever your situation, you do have me, this voice. You also have everyone else in the world. It's just pretty hard to feel them sometimes. Pain isolates us. But everyone else is out there, each trying to reach you somehow. Things will get better. Take that to the bank. Pain passes. Humiliation passes. Betrayal passes. Loss passes. Death takes, like a tide coming in, takes the beach, and then rolls out, leaving the living behind with the seaweed and the snails. You and I are among the left behind. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Things will get better. Just bide your time. Hold on. You'll see. Get angry at me if you'd like to. When I feel desperate, I often get angry at the people who tell me that things will get better. How could they possibly know? It makes me mad. But it's also what I want to hear because it's what the best part of me believes and needs to hear. Life is so hard for us all. The good thing is it's not hardest on all of us all at the same time. So when one of us is more or less okay, we can help offer hope to those who are in the depths. It's how we get each other through. Each other, we're the key. That's not a theory, it's a fact. You know it, I know it. We've all been in the depths. If you're there now, I can tell you I've been there too. Now I have your hand. Maybe then you had mine. Being human keeps us close. Pain binds us in the need for each other. Sooner or later, though, we lose everyone and everything. Maybe not everything. As long as someone has hope, there's hope. And as long as there's hope, desperation will subside. Do your best to allow for hope. Don't block it out. It will come if you don't block it out. When I'm desperate, the worst moments are when hope all of a sudden vanishes, and all I can see are the very worst outcomes. It's like a cloud blocks out the sun, and my world just goes dark. A chill feeling overcomes me with no warning in periods when I'm living in sorrow or danger. My world goes dark. But sooner or later, the cloud does move on, thank God, and the sun, such as it is, returns. I say such as it is because in those periods, even the sun doesn't restore me completely. It's a cliche, but it's still true. Life is all ups and downs. Thank God the downs don't last forever. And I guess it's just as well the ups don't either. Since right now I have hope, let me try to give some to you. All I can do is try, and all you can do is try to let me. Hope turns desperation into a possible destination. When I'm desperate, what I need more than anything is hope. Desperate basically means out of hope, full of fear, but no hope. Take my hand. Now let me share some of my hope with you. Just hold tight. It will come through naturally, just like it did when you gave it to me back when. You can't hold my physical hand, but you can hold the imaginary hand my words create. Imaginary hands never need to leave you. See those hands now, imagine their grip, and you will feel hope. These are hard-earned words. I won't tell you all the troubles I've seen, but I've seen many. And I've been places where I felt nothing but fear, where I felt no hope at all. Let me hold you now. It will work out. It always has. It will again. Thank you.
Ned, a lot of people are asking for a copy of that letter.
Oh, sure. I can send it to you.
Great.
Do we have some questions before we?
We do, and there are some that I know you can absolutely touch on here real quick. So I just found the one about, oh, I didn't write her name down, but I just responded to her, but she says, what do you recommend for those 20% for whom medication doesn't work? And I know that you are deal with that. So that's one question.
I want to answer that because I'll forget the next one. But
okay.
With my ADD, coaching, physical exercise is huge, and now I've become a big fan of this cerebellar stimulation program, which you can use at any age. Well, you have to be 7 years old, but 7 and above, any age can use it. And yes, it's 10 minutes twice a day, and yes, it takes 3 to 6 months. But I'd really urge checking that out. Just go to distraction.zingperformance.com. And but coaching, physical exercise, having a creative outlet, that's a big one. We really need to have a creative outlet. We ADDers, we're like cows. We need to get milked. If we don't express our creativity, we get stopped up, and it's not good. So those would be the major non-medication interventions.
Any supplements or anything like that that you would recommend?
Oh, Sal, thank you for reminding me. Omega Bright fish oil, fatty acids, really wonderful product. I know the woman, Carol Locke, who developed it. She was at Harvard Medical School. It's top quality. I've been taking it for 20 years, as has my wife. Fish oil is really good for your brain because it has essential fatty acids, and those are fatty acids that your body can't synthesize. And they're in the myelin sheets that are like the rubber around the wire of your neurons. So I'm a big proponent of that. And then they have a new product, Omega Bright. If you go to omegabrightwellness.com, you can get their new product, which is CBD. CBD is all the rage these days. Well, I have been taking CBD, and believe me, they're not paying me to say this. So this is a true testimonial. I have been taking CBD for about a month now. And it's amazing. It really does calm me in a way. With my ADD, the residua of my ADD is I'm reactive. I can be very impatient and irritable. And I don't like it about myself, but this smooths that out. The CBD smooths that out. I don't get sedated. It's not like a benzodiazepine at all. It's not like alcohol. It's not like any of the drugs. It's a natural. It activates the endocannabinoid system that we all have. It's like when I was in medical school, they were just discovering the endorphin system, the endogenous morphine receptors. Well, we have endogenous cannabis receptors, basically. And the CBD product goes to those places and is very calming. So, and then other, supplements, the standard ones, vitamin C, vitamin D definitely important, B complex, magnesium and zinc, those are all good. And then, if you want to spend an interesting hour, just go on Google and type in supplements. The next thing you know, I did this at one point. I was taking like 50 supplements a day. And if nothing else, I had the most expensive urine in Boston. But, it's worth looking into. And you can come up with your own cocktail. Be your own experimental animal. See what makes you, feel better. And maybe you'll get lucky like I did with the CBDs at omegabrightwellness.com. And the other question? Megan?
I'm just going to add one. Hey, it's John.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of questions earlier in the conference, in the webinar about structure and how to build structure for yourself. and particularly for adults who are asking this question about themselves, and particularly with all this going on.
Well, getting a coach is the best way. It's hard to do it for yourself. We just don't have those neurons. But if you have a couple, you can coach each other, and just sit down at the kitchen table with a pad of paper and just, lay it out. What are the chores? What are the obligations? What are the things we need to do? And delegate according to interest and skill. And the same way with chores for the kids. It's not rocket science. It's just hard for people with ADD to do it. Number one, it's boring, and boredom is our kryptonite. We repel from it. We don't want to do it. We run away from it. And number two, it's boring. So we don't want to do it. So we avoid it. And it also rubs our nose in what we're bad at. It can be embarrassing. You mean you don't have a schedule? You mean you don't know, when to get up or when to go to bed? You can feel ashamed, and shame is a big problem in the world of ADD. People feel tremendous shame over what they can't do. And I'm always telling them, look, you don't have to be House Beautiful. You don't have to be Martha Stewart. You don't have to be, you just want to be neat enough that being disorganized doesn't keep you from reaching your goals. That's all. And well enough organized, well enough planful, well enough structured, that lack of structure doesn't keep you from reaching your goals. That's the key. I mean, I've written 20 books. I'm finishing my 21st. If you ask me how and when I do it, I don't know. I truly don't have a structured writing schedule. Most authors do. I don't. I can, partly because I've got so many other things that I've got to squeeze in, but I get it done. Mainly because I really want to. We tend to do what we really want to do. And I really want to write these books. I need to write these books. It's part of my destiny. It's part of fulfilling, the part of me, my vision of greatness, So, however you do get it done, whatever it is that you feel passionate about, do get it done. But a coach can help a great deal.
So can I jump in with another question here?
Oh, you're back, Megan.
I am. I was having a hard time toggling between and trying to get to my volume and unmute myself. But yes, I'm here. So I think this is really important because it goes to some of the parent frustrations, and like you had talked about, give yourself some grace, right?
Right.
So here's Celeste. She says, how do parents increase their frustration tolerance? I understand that one, while assisting their ADHD child with distance learning. For an example, a parent avoiding yelling at their child when seeing their child distracted by noises on Zoom when they're with their class. And this question's come up a lot about how, dealing with our kids when they're online with their class, and just the parent frustration and dealing with that. So.
Well, I think the main thing is to acknowledge that it's difficult and try not to embarrass yourself by losing it in front of the class. You might go outside onto the porch and scream. You also, understand that it's only normal. You'll have these reactions. This is a whole new setting. Don't let the apparent lack of order upset you too much. It's really not that big of a deal. Try to keep it in perspective. Use a sense of humor. Those are the suggestions that come to me right off the top of my head. Don't get sucked into the drama. Don't get sucked into believing this is, high stakes poker. It's not. It's grade school stuff, okay? And it's done in a whole new kind of setting. And if kids are cutting up and carrying on, okay, so they are. Don't let it ruin your day. Don't think you have to present, the perfect child for the class and all that kind of stuff. Don't get caught up in these sort of pressures. Realize that things are not going to go the way they're supposed to go these days. They're just not. We just don't have we're doing the best we can, and as I said earlier, I think by and large we're doing pretty darn well.
And I wanted to just say one more question here from Katie. And the reason I'm saying this is to you right now is it validates what you had said earlier, that giving kids a project and maybe letting go of some of the other, classroom things that they're not getting, that they don't want to do. And I think Katie has a perfect example here. She says, what about this giving kids, ADHD kids, a project? Any thoughts? She has a 10-year-old, twice exceptional kiddo who's imaginative, but she's having a hard time getting him to do anything. Other kids who love to draw, musically talented, but they won't practice. And, wanting to know, are her expectations too high? But going back to, maybe you commenting on what you said about, sort of scrapping, you don't have to do everything that they're asking you to do. Make a project that everyone wants to get involved with family. So.
Yeah, and don't be surprised if they don't want to do anything. Don't think your kid is a loser if you offer him all these enriching possibilities and he says, I'd rather veg out. Don't despair. I mean, that's part of being a kid and part of having ADD too. Don't think you've got to pump enrichment into them every day and keep them, offer projects. Sure, I gave you a few that came to me off the top of my head. Offer them. If they go over like a lead balloon, they go over like a lead balloon. Okay, don't think you've got to turn this period of time into this life-changing moment where they're going to, discover, something that no one's ever discovered. They might. I mean, this is when those things happen, but they might not. And they might reject all of your ideas. And then you say, okay, fine. And let them figure out what they want to do. And that's really the best anyway. Boredom is the mother of invention. So, when they say I'm bored, you say, well, okay, good. And see what they go, what they do next. Boredom gives them the opportunity as well as the necessity to dream something up. Mom's not going to come to the rescue. Dad's not going to come to the rescue. Figure it out. Amuse yourself. I'm going to go take a nap. And it's good for them to see that, and then let them figure it out. If what they figure out is what Steven Spielberg did when he was like 10 years old and paint the kitchen yellow with egg yolks, then you'll say, gee, that's not the project I had in mind. But, you do want to give them the chance to independently come up with their own projects and don't feel you're a failure or they're a failure if they're not, empire building during these weeks of shelter at home.
Great. Did you want some more questions?
Well, you tell me, what is our timetable?
John, do you know where we're at with time?
Yeah, I think we could have time for maybe one or two more questions.
Okay, so Dr. Hallowell, I know that you've had some things to say about this before. Richard from Cape Cod wants to know, do you know anything about EEG or neurobiofeedback, and does it offer any benefit for ADHD?
Yeah, biofeedback, I was just talking to Peter Jensen, who's one of the great researchers in the field, and he said Gene Arnold, who's another one of the great researchers in the field, just finished doing a very elegant controlled study of neurofeedback, and after completing this elegant study, and Peter wouldn't use the word elegant lightly, concluded that it really doesn't help. So, there are many different kinds of biofeedback, and maybe you found one that really helps you, but it's time consuming, it can be expensive, and at least the kind that Dr. Arnold studied proved to be ineffective. So I would personally recommend looking elsewhere in terms of help for ADHD.
Yeah, there were some other questions sort of along that line, as well as St. John's wort, and then any of the sort of wearables that are coming out. And I think that's the neurofeedback and things like this. So
yeah, I'm not big on those. I'm big on the things that I've seen really work, and I talked about those during the presentation. The most important thing is that you get excited about having this condition, and then work with an expert or somebody to unwrap your gift. Because believe me, if you do that over time, it will happen. And it's not finding the little thing. It's using the principles I've given to you tonight, and you will. It will happen. Just keep at it. Don't worry alone. And come up with a program that you cobble together with an expert and make, and my books are out there. They really do contain a lot. driven to distraction, delivered from distraction, super parenting for ADD. They're all, you know, they're chock full of ideas and solutions to all the problems that you might ask about.
And then, so then I'll just end it with this one, unless John has another one. I'm seeing a lot of comments just about thank you, you know, for the permission and the inspiration and the hope in, you know, telling it, you know, letting us know it's okay to let go of some of this and connect. And that this is a time with our kids with ADHD and all of that, that they really can connect back with families where it's been stressful. This is really giving parents a chance to sort of set aside some of those things that have been frustrating and taxing on the relationship. So
absolutely, yeah, try to as best you can make this a time of connection, not of you know, to-do lists.
and then of course your podcast Distracted, there's great support there where you say don't worry alone. So
well, thank you. Yeah, it's the podcast is in its third year now. It's called Distraction, and it's on iTunes. I love doing it. We have wonderful guests, and we're building up quite a community. Yeah, Distraction on iTunes.
Well, I just want to wrap things up. First of all, to say, Ned, you're amazing at being able to connect through a video screen. Yeah, really impressive. You know, and I can feel it for sure. But the one thing that's kind of a drag about this format is that people don't actually get to applaud for you. So you can applaud in the chat if you want, and I'll do an applause for the crew.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your wise words, and I think you delivered on what I set you up for, which is making everybody feel a little bit better than they came in. So, and we sent some email addresses, and we'll send out the recording to everybody. And so, thank you guys all for your time this evening.
Thank you.
and they also said that you don't look 70. So
oh, thank you. Thank you.
and we'll be able to get people that recording or that paper, the poem.
Shall I just email it to you, John?
Yeah, I think I have it. I'll include that when we send.
No, I made an abridged version.
Okay, so yeah, you can send me that. Great.
And you don't have the one that I
read.
I'll send you the abridged version.
Okay, I'm letting thank yous roll through a little bit, and then I'm gonna shut it down. Good night, everybody.
Good night, John.
Lots of claps. There we go.